Hello and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. And another edition of Plastic Models for Beginners. Now, I was originally going to do something completely different with this particular video, but I decided to keep it short and sweet and, try and keep it simple. So, you'll understand why in a minute. Today, I mainly want to talk about the next purchase that I believe, anybody that wants to do some modeling, and it's not absolutely necessary. There's plenty of examples online, for instance, and more YouTube channels of why what I'm going to say is not 100% necessary. However, for most people, for a lot of people, what I'm going to talk about today will make model building a little bit easier and more enjoyable once you can master the techniques. And what it is airbrushes. It's pretty much a given that most people are eventually going to get an airbrush to use for model building, and the reason for that is you have greater control over the amount of paint that you're putting on the model as compared to the spray cans, the aerosol cans of paint, like I demonstrated in my first series of Plastic Models for Beginners, the first project. You can control the amount of paint that you're putting on, and it's easier to change from color to color. You can choose the type of paint you're going to put on your model, and once you get into more, when you get into other techniques, say for instance camouflage patterns on either military aircraft or vehicles, or even doing spray paint jobs on cars and motorcycles, whatever your modeling subjects are, airbrushes can really help. Okay, so I first want to say that I'm not going to recommend one brand over another, one type over another. I'm just going to tell you what I have, tell you basically what they do, and then I would suggest getting on the internet, either YouTube or some of the modeling or painting websites and forums, and just do a little research and figure out what you want to do, what you want to get as far as an airbrush if you so desire. And just, as an aside, I will be using an airbrush on the models from here on out. So, if you're paintbrushing, using paintbrushes for models, then, you'll have to kind of skip this part of the builds and all that kind of stuff, and, do the brush painting thing, which is great. So basically there are two types of airbrushes. There's single action and double action. Single action, the paint is controlled either by a nozzle at the front, or in the case of this one right here, a needle adjustment in the back. And what this does is this controls the amount of paint that flows through the airbrush that comes out of the end. Okay, and the air is controlled with this button here. Now in a single action, it's like air is on, air is off. Steady stream according to what PSI you're running, what pressure you're running out of your air source. And you control the amount of paint with this knob here. So what these are good for, and again, these are my opinions, and could be other people's, might not be other people's, but what I'm telling you isn't gospel truth or anything like that. It's just my observations and the way I use things. Okay, just another disclaimer for you. But what I generally use single action for is for spraying primers, because I can just, I can open it up, spray a good layer of primer on. I don't have to worry about being real precise or careful. I can just dump the primer on there, let it dry, and I'm good to go. I also use it for base coats, and it can also be used painting from, say, one color to another. For instance, an aircraft. If you have an aircraft model and you paint the lower part one color, you paint the upper part another color. If you can either mask it, or if you have a soft edge camouflage, you can just spray right along and spray the upper solid color. So that's pretty much what I use the single action for. I also use it for clear coats. So that's what a single action. Double action is, as it says, it's got a double action. Your air is controlled just like that one with this button here, according to the pressure you have from your air source. But the amount of paint, instead of having a twist knob there or a nozzle control here, it's controlled by pulling back on the trigger. Because what it does is it opens the needle and controls the amount of paint that comes out of the end, okay, from the color cup. So what that does is you can do real fine work by just using very little paint. You can do camouflage patterns. You just have more control, and you can develop some techniques that will allow you to do more things with your airbrush. Okay. Now, another difference in airbrushes is there are gravity feed, which is what these are, which means you put the paint in the top, and gravity and suction from the air is what pulls the paint out and through the tip. Okay, gravity feed. These are both gravity feed, obviously. Also in single and double action, there's something called siphon feed, which is what this is. Now this is a single action, and the amount of airflow, or the amount of paint flow, is controlled by this knurled cone-shaped device here. And what that does is that controls how much paint comes out. Okay, it takes the place of this here. Okay, and again, it comes in double action. I don't have one anymore, but it's the same thing. Push down for air, pull back for paint. But siphon feed, your paint goes in a color cup or bottle, and siphon action from the air flowing through will pull the paint from the cup through the tip and out. Okay, these are fine, and I used one for a long time. I do find that you use a little bit more paint with one of these, and you can sometimes end up with a little bit more waste, because that's a pretty long channel right there to hold paint. They're also a little bit harder to clean, and you know, a lot of people use them. A lot of people get really good results. I got decent results with mine. It's just, I find the gravity feed to be a little more user-friendly, easy to clean, easy to use. Okay, but those are the different types. So you have gravity feed, you have siphon feed, you have single action, and you have double action. So that's basically it on airbrushes. And again, I'm giving you the information so you'll kind of know the nomenclature a little bit of what these are. Again, I recommend you do some research, find out what people are using, and you know, I would also suggest not buying cheap knockoff type airbrushes. People have good luck with those sometimes, other times not so much. Stick with the name brands such as Iwata or Badger, or those siphon feeds if you like those type. Those are Pache. There's Harder and Steenback. There's all kinds of airbrushes. So do a little research, see what kind looks like it might fit your modeling style, and just go into it knowing that you will most likely not find one go-to airbrush. You're going to go through a different, just a fair warning, and I discovered this myself, you may luck out and get one right off the bat that you love and you can get perfect results with. Best thing you can do is practice with it. After a little while, you'll learn the idiosyncrasies of the particular airbrush that you decide to get. So, you know, do some research, watch some YouTube videos, read some reviews, try and find non-biased reviews, and just find an airbrush that you can use. Check out the different types of way you can supply air to it. I mean, there's compressors, there's tankless compressors, there's compressors with tanks, there are CO2 cylinders, which is what I happen to use. Check into those as well, and decide what kind you want. Again, you know, I wouldn't spend a fortune on something, but you know, buy something that's halfway decent and that will last and has a good reputation. This is one of those things where it is really personal preference and technique, and what one person can do with one airbrush, another person might not be able to do with the same airbrush. So that's really all I'm going to say about airbrushes. A person could go on for hours and hours talking about them, you know, and still not come up with, you know, a definitive answer. So just for your information, the ones that I use the Iwata Eclipse HPCS. It's made in Japan. I also use the Iwata HPM2, which is made in Japan, for my single action as well. And out of all of the ones I've used, these are the two that have worked out the best for me, so these are the ones I use, and I really like them. But again, it may not work for you like they work for me. So there's just a little bit of food for thought, and mainly it's just to let you know that the airbrush will be a big part of the plastic models for beginner builds from here on out, so you don't get caught unawares, and you can prepare if you like. So anyway, that's it for now on Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and Plastic Models for Beginners. If you have any questions, specific questions or comments, or would like some more information on the different air sources and, you know, the airbrushes and stuff like that, leave comments below and I will respond to those as quickly and quickly and concisely as I can, and hopefully you know, offer a little bit of help that might help you choose an airbrush if you so desire. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and Plastic Models for Beginners, and I will see you all next time.